Hi, I'm Yoli and welcome to my channel. Okay, so in today's video I'm going to be sewing a wedding guest dress, which is really exciting. My friend Lizzie is getting married. She's kind of like one of the first ones out of my friends from school who's getting married, and her wedding is literally in, I think, less than 2 weeks now. I kind of had this idea to sew my own guest dress for it a while ago. I did all the fabric for it and everything, but I've only just had time to actually start doing it now. It's half time, I'm a teacher, so I'm not teaching any kids this week, so I actually finally have time to do it. And I think it's gonna go well. So some of my sewing background, I'm not really a sewer. I was such a crafty kid. Like, I used to love doing like DIY projects and like trying to sew my own stuff. So I used to make, and my grandmother was actually a seamstress, so she showed me how to make like a really basic skirt when I was really little, like one of those ones where you just sew along the edge and put the elastic in, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So I used to sew like a lot of things like that when I was younger, and like circle skirts, and I've had a few like failed sewing projects that like I started but I never really went back to, just because I get kind of frustrated. But I just have a feeling that this is gonna turn out really well. I don't know why, maybe it's false optimism. I told my mum that I was embarking on this and she said she doesn't think it's a good idea. But I think some things that are going to go differently this time to like sewing projects I've attempted in the past is that I'm actually going to use a pattern this time. I've never actually sewn with a pattern before. I've always just kind of like made my own patterns or just done it by like, you know, the measurements. So I think it will work, because like with my failed sewing stuff, it's always like it's going really well and then there's just like one thing that goes wrong, like either I measured something wrong or like it cut off like a bit too much fabric, and that's where it goes awry. And they're usually savable, but it's just like at that point I just don't have the heart to save them. So I do have a bag of savable sewing projects, which I think one day, maybe I should do a video about it, one day I will just go through and fix them all and actually make them wearable. But today we're starting afresh, we're starting anew with this lovely wedding guest dress. So the dress is going to be like a lilac-y satin dress, and it's kind of inspired by, maybe not inspired by, but like a prequel to a dress that I wore when I was really little. I'll see if I can find a picture and put it up. It was, I think, a dress I wore to my brother's like christening or something like that, and that was also lilac satin, and I think actually my grandmother made that dress. So yeah, I don't know, I thought it would be nice to do something in that colour scheme, and I think that's a really lovely colour for celebrations and stuff, so hopefully it will turn out well. And the design itself, it's actually something, I had a dream a couple of years ago of like a couple of Bridgerton inspired dresses, but this isn't one of them. But I think the design is a little bit similar to what I envisaged in my dream. But I think I'll do a separate video on those particular Bridgerton inspired dresses that were revealed to me in a dream, because I think they're quite fun. So these are some of the fabrics I have. I first have this lovely lilac satin, which is so pretty. This like mesh florally stuff, which I like. Interfacing, which I didn't need to show. I've got this massive spool of lilac thread, which I thought it was so much smaller when I ordered it online, but this is the size that came. But I'm not complaining, I mean, rather have more thread than less. My only concern is it might not fit on my sewing machine. It should be fine, I don't know. I've also got a zip and a bunch of like lilac ribbon and a few like floral embellishment things that I might sew on, but we'll see. So for the basic design of the dress, it's going to be an A-line style cap sleeve, high-waisted but not super high empire waist, and I'm not sure if it's going to have a waistband yet. I think that'll be a detail I'll add maybe later on. I'll see what it looks like without first. And the base material is going to be the lilac satin, and then on top I'm going to have the mesh floral overlay with the small cap sleeves. And I actually originally wanted I wanted a floral overlay, maybe I'll put in a picture, that has more like different colours of flowers on it. So like it would have this kind of sage green and then lilac as the main ones, and it had a few different colours of the flowers dotted all across. But I could only find that in a trim. I couldn't find it in the whole fabric. So I opted for this other one, this it's like the flowers are kind of like peachy creamy instead of lilac, but I'm still going to have this as an overlay on top, and then I'm going to sew on these little flowers to give it like a bit of a few different colours here and there. And I'm also going to use my hot fix tool to heat press some little gemstones on as well. Yeah, I think that is the basic design. I hope it will look nice. I think it will. So I made the pattern online myself because I had this image of the design of the dress that I wanted, but I couldn't really find the exact pattern. So I found this website called Bodice, where I just basically got to design the dress on there, put in my own personal measurements as well, and then I could just buy the pattern from there. It was like £2 or something. It was really cheap and really good. So I'm hoping it's going to work out. And then because they send you the pattern as like a PDF, and I didn't want to print it all out and stick it all together and cut it all out because it takes forever. I used to study architecture, and we used to have to, well, for a lot of my projects I used to have to print out so much paper and cut it together and cut it all up and stick it together, and you have to get it right on the line to align it for these really, really massive drawings. And I just thought that was going to take forever if I do that myself. So I found another website, I think it's called Fabuloso, which is just a free pattern printing service. So I paid like another £2 or something to get it printed. So it's all on there. It came in this little envelope. It's kind of late tonight, it's already like 8 o'clock. So I'm probably just going to cut out all the pattern pieces tonight. Maybe I'll get on to cutting the fabric. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. I'm kind of aiming to have this done in 3 days. Hopefully. I think it's quite an ambitious project. I do mean 3 full days because I blocked out this time to do it because I'm not teaching, we're on half term, and I've got some stuff I need to get finished on the end of the week as well, so I'm going to be quite strict with myself. So hopefully, today is Monday, 8 PM on Monday, so I'm hoping Wednesday night, Thursday morning, it'll be finished. Yeah, so I think I just got to get to it. Okay, I've started cutting out the pattern. My only concern is it looks really tiny. Like the pieces just don't look big enough to make a whole dress. Like the pieces just look kind of small. But I'm hoping the measurements should be right because I put in all the measurements so it was custom. I guess maybe when it's all sewn together it won't look as small because obviously the pieces, it's not like one piece for the skirt, like there's multiple pieces that go together, so maybe that's why everything is looking so small, and it won't be like that in the end. I am also watching Next in Fashion while I cut out the pattern because I basically only had 1 episode left. I started watching it a while ago, season 2 with Gigi Hadid, and I just thought, let me save the last episode for when I'm sewing this dress, so that it's like they're sewing and I'm also sewing while I'm watching them. Anyway, so I'm just going to finish cutting out the pattern and see if I want to cut out the fabric today as well or tomorrow.
Until the runway show, I don't have everything done. I need every second to count, and I can't make any mistakes right now.
Okay, I just finished cutting out all of the pattern pieces. It took me like an hour. There's not actually too many, but what I realised is some of them I need to cut 2 of them out of the fabric so that means there'll be more pieces to sew. But what I think I'm actually going to do is I've got some tracing paper. I think I'm just going to trace around the ones that I need 2 of on the tracing paper, because I think it'll just be easier if I have like a pattern piece for every single piece I need to sew that I can lay out on the fabric before I start cutting it. So yeah, hopefully that shouldn't take too long. I think I'm going to do that. Also, I am now watching Exo Kitty. My friend Sunny is actually in this. She's one of the Mean Girls, like minions. And yeah, she's fab. This show's really cute. Good morning, it is the next day. I finished cutting out all of the pattern pieces yesterday, so I've just laid them all out onto the fabric this morning. I was really worried that they weren't all going to fit, because when I rolled the fabric out I was like, that is not a lot of fabric for a whole dress, but surprisingly they do, and there's some fabric to spare, which is good. I'm so glad that I cut out the other, like the doubles of the pattern pieces before, so I'd have actually like 2 of the ones that I need to have 2 of instead of just repeating the same one, because I think it's really nice and clear to see all of the pieces laid out, and I know this is exactly how much I need to sew and how much fabric I need. Yeah, so I'm just going to start cutting, I think. I can't find my cutting mat, which is really annoying. A cutting mat is, if you don't know, it's like a large rectangle, like rubbery kind of mat thing that you put underneath stuff you're cutting so you don't scratch the surface you're cutting on, but I cannot find that. So I am going to be using this old tabletop that I have instead. I actually kept it originally because like my mum was throwing the table away, and I was like, can I keep that? And she was like, what for? And I was like, oh, I can, it's a nice like wooden surface, I can like practice turns on it, which I've only done like once. I have not used it at all, so now I'm going to use it to cut stuff on. I'm just going to pin all of the pattern pieces onto the fabric in place, and then I'm going to cut it all with a rotary cutter.
Hey, Joel.
Hi, Mommy. Okay, I finally finished cutting out all of the pieces of fabric from the pattern. Not gonna lie, that took me all day. Like, it took me hours, longer than I expected, but I've got all the pieces cut out now, and I feel like the sewing should be like pretty straightforward, because like, I don't know, it's quite a simple pattern, I think. Like, I don't have to do any pleats, I don't have to do any darts or anything like that, because they're like princess seams, so basically just stitch everything together. The only thing that might make it a bit complicated is with the like mesh overlay on top of it as well, but I think I'll figure that out tomorrow. I think I'll start the sewing tomorrow and set up my machine and everything. And also my other concern is I cut myself on on my rotary cutter when I was cutting out the fabric. I think I've got a few dots of blood like on some of my, like little dots of blood from where I cut myself. Hopefully it should be fine. I don't actually know. I'll just spot clean it. Or maybe like the overlay, the mesh, the floral, or maybe the floral overlay will cover it. I'm not sure. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, I'm really happy that I finished cutting out all the pieces and yeah, excited to start sewing. Okay, day 3, I am back and I'm actually going to start sewing today, which is exciting. I'm probably not going to finish today. I don't know why I said I'd be able to do this in 3 days. I think I was a bit ambitious, but actually maybe I'll be able to finish the most part of the sewing today, and then the embellishments will be left for like maybe day 4 or day 5. Hopefully I can finish it at day 4, but it might go on to day 5. And also, like I said, 3 like full days, and to be honest, like I haven't actually been doing full days. Like it's about 12 o'clock now, so I haven't done anything this whole morning, and I only did it for like about 6 hours yesterday, so I think maybe full days it probably would be 3 in total. I think today I'm gonna start with sewing the bodice, and how I'm gonna do it. So I'm going to sew each piece individually around. I'm going to sew the satin to the floral overlay wrong sides together, and then I'm going to flip it inside out so that the edge is nice, and then it'll be like the right sides, and then I'm going to sew it all together just so all the seams are nice. I don't know if that's a proper technique or like that's the right way to do things, but that's just how it makes sense in my head, so I think that's going to be the easiest way for me to do it. And then I'll move on to the skirt. So I'm just going to set up the sewing machine now. Hopefully my massive spool of thread will fit on, or I'll be able to do something with that. And yeah, fingers crossed. Why? No, you're kidding me, Joey. Have you looked
I've
at
literally
this?
checked out. This is...
Okay, so what do we do? Oh, okay, so just faster. Okay, fine. Thanks, Joe. Okay, I took a little break from filming stuff. I had a slight mare because a whole host of things happened. I was just setting the machine up, putting my thread in, putting the bobbin in, and then as I was threading it, I realised that the needle in the machine was broken because my sister, when she last used this machine, which was ages ago honestly, which was like almost a year ago, she was like, oh, I broke the needle, but I'll order some more. And I was like, cool, fine. I'm really hoping this camera is not going to go off because I don't know what has happened. I don't know if I pressed a setting or something, but now it just keeps stopping recording after like 30 seconds. It's really annoying. So, let us proceed. Yeah, so the needle broke and it was fine. I found another one, but then as soon as I put that one back in and tried to start sewing again, something else went wrong, like the shuttle part of the machine that holds the bobbin case, that also just decided to fall out, and that's never happened to me before. It's fine, I just looked up online, managed to put it back in, started sewing again, then the needle that I had just replaced broke again, and then my bobbin ran out of thread, so then I had to rethread the bobbin. So basically it's taken a lot longer than I thought, but I have managed to sew all of the bodice pieces together. I've just done each layer of floral mesh onto the satin. I wanted to do it that way because I really wanted the mesh to be tight, like in the seams. I didn't want it to be baggy and like a t-shirt kind of effect, so the dress is quite fitted. The only problem is my ingenious idea to sew these pieces together and then turn them inside out before I sew them together has a slight flaw. Because the mesh is see-through, you can kind of see the raw edges on the inside. Maybe it just, you can't really see it that much on camera, but you can see the raw edges like on the inside of the part of the dress that will be showing. So what I'm actually going to do is, before I turn the rest of them inside out, I'm going to burn the edges of the fabric. I just did a test piece and didn't light my house on fire, so it's fine. I'm going to burn the edges so they're sealed, so that they don't fray, so they look nice and neat from the inside, even when I flip them over. And I'm hoping that that will work. And then after that, I'm going to sew the bodice together, and hopefully I'll have time to do the sleeves as well today. So it is day 4. Basically yesterday when I was sewing and then I was doing a bit of filming, I was using my sister's camera and it stopped working, it broke. I don't really know how, but I feel really terrible. But it's okay because there's something wrong with the lens or something like that. So she's ordered a new, like the part you need to fix it, and it'll be here soon. So for the rest of the video, there'll probably be less updates because now I've just switched to using my phone. But basically what I managed to do yesterday was I pretty much finished the bodice. Well, I haven't sewn it together yet. Yeah, it's looking pretty good, I think. And it does look like it will fit just about, so that's good. I think the way that I did the seams, like, it's a little messy, but I think it worked quite well. So now today I'm just going to do the skirt, and the skirt I'm hoping will be easier because I'm not sewing the mesh into the seams like I did on this one to make it nice and tight. For the skirt I'm just going to have it lying on top so it's a bit more floaty, and to stitch the panels together I think I'm going to do I think it's called a French seam. It's like where you stitch the fabric right sides together, and then you flip it over and then you stitch it wrong sides together so the seams are nice and neat. So I'm going to try that today, and I will probably not record a lot of the sewing, but I will do an update at the end, because after I finish the skirt I've just got to add the sleeves and the zip. The sleeves that I'm most worried about, probably, because I don't even think I've ever sewed sleeves. To be honest, I've never sewed a bodice before either, so hopefully it will be fine, and I will post an update, hopefully not too long from now. Okay, I'm not proud of what's happened. It has been 3 years since that last update. It is now 2026. A lot occurred. I actually had to go back and write down the series of events that happened, just because my memory is a bit foggy because it's been so many years. But this is how the rest of the dress went. We're in June 2023, and again, that was when the wedding was. I started it the last week of May, so that I could have it for the wedding. So I got to this stage with the bodice all finished. I'd done the skirt, I attached the skirt to the bodice. I hadn't put on the sleeves yet, but then I realised that the skirt didn't go all the way round. There wasn't enough fabric, there weren't enough pieces. So I ordered more fabric, and at that point I was like, am I really going to finish this in time for the wedding? And I could have really pressed on and tried to finish it, but I also had a bunch of other stuff to do that weekend before the wedding. Like I had a self-tape come in all of a sudden, so I had to learn the lines for that and film that before I left. And then I also was actually singing at the wedding as well. My friend, she asked me to sing as part of the service, and I still had not finished learning the words and the music of the songs I was meant to be singing. I'd been listening to them kind of while I was sewing the dress, so I thought, you know what, let me just put this dress on hold for now and I'm going to think of a different occasion to wear it for, and I'm just going to wear a different dress for this wedding. So I ended up wearing this dress, which I really love, that has a bunch of pastel ribbons. And I actually wore it for a different wedding 5 years prior that I also sang at, so it was a bit funny. So I just ended up wearing that dress again, and it was really lovely, had a really great time, and yeah, I kind of shelved the project for a little bit. Cut to July 2023, and I had a really great idea of where I was going to wear the dress. I basically had a graduation ceremony coming up, and I was like, okay, great, this could also work as a graduation dress. So I finished sewing the rest of the skirt and attaching that to the bodice. What I did basically was, with the extra fabric, I cut out another front panel, and then I cut that in half so that the zip could be aligned with it on the back, and then I attached that to the bodice, and it seemed to work all right. I also attached the sleeves, and that was the main bulk of the dress done. It still had a lot of tidying up to do at that point, but the bulk of the dress was done. The only things left I had to do was, one of the sleeves ended up being a bit tight actually, so I kind of thought I probably had to redo that, and then the zip was a little bit wonky. The waistband I wasn't really sure on, and also I hadn't done any of the embellishments. So again, this is in July, and then my graduation ceremony was coming up, and I was going to finish doing all of those things for the graduation ceremony, but then I started second guessing myself again, and I was like, I don't know whether I actually want to wear this to the ceremony. And I asked a few people what they thought as well, and I just kind of ended up concluding that it didn't really fit the vibe of a graduation the same way it did a wedding. So I decided to wear something else to my graduation. I wore this little two-piece creamy butter yellow kind of suit type thing that I got from Zara a few years prior, and it was really, really cute. I think it was a good decision of what to wear. And I also remembered at my graduation ceremony before this one that I wore the Zara outfit to. It was a bit frustrating because for the gown I didn't have a button on the dress that I wore then, which made my gown keep on like slipping off my shoulders, which wasn't the most comfortable when I was going around with it during the day and for the photos and stuff like that. And then I knew if I wore this dress that I'd made, the same thing would happen. I didn't have a button at the front, so it would be a bit inconvenient. So that's why I ended up wearing the yellow two-piece, because it had the button at the front and I thought it looked cute and it gave graduation vibes. So that's what I did, and I again benched the dress project and said I'd come back to it. So during that same summer of 2023, I didn't really have time to come back for it because I just got a bit busy with work. I was helping out with this theatre show for one of the companies I teach for. They had this big theatre production over that summer, so I was working there, and then I also ended up doing a course with National Youth Theatre, and I was staying away from home. I was staying at my aunt's house in London while I was doing that, so yeah, I wasn't at home to be working on the dress, and I was also doing a bit of nannying that summer as well, so it was just a very busy summer, and I thought, okay, let me finish this more towards the end of the year. But then September 2023, I unexpectedly got into drama school. It was a really last minute thing. I had about 2 weeks between when I decided I was going and to actually starting, and yeah, so I went to a conservatoire, performing arts conservatoire, for a year. So again, I was just very busy. I also was continuing my work as a ballet teacher throughout my year studying there, and I also did some theatre work as well, some Christmas theatre in the December of 2023. Yeah, so the year ended, the dress didn't get finished. So we come to January 2024, and basically January 2024 I was like, I have to finish this dress now, and I still had a few days actually in between me finishing my Christmas performance contract and then me starting the academic term again, going back to my drama school / dance college. So I decided now would be a really good time to make some headway on this dress. So what I did was I unpicked that sleeve that was a bit tight and reattached it. It was still kind of too small afterwards. I think maybe the right thing to do would have been just to cut out a new sleeve entirely, but at that point I was a bit finished and it was okay, it worked, you know. I think the bodice overall could have fit a bit better, but it was still wearable. I was still okay. And then I wanted to add the embellishments, which I was so excited for, but then I was really being dissuaded from putting on any of the embellishments. My mum and my aunt, they were both saying, they were like, no, the dress is fine as it is, it's really lovely, it's going to look bad if you add all of this different colour and the gemstones, and they just did not see the vision But I decided to stick to my guns because I was like, that was my original design and I really think it's gonna work. Like, I kind of picked out the colours in a way that it would be subtle, but it would be something different. I sewed on all of the flowers by hand, just with a needle and thread, which was a bit time consuming, but it was really fun. It was quite therapeutic. And I just dotted different colours around kind of randomly. And then I went in with my hot fix tool and I hot pressed all of these gems onto the top mesh layer, which proved to be a little bit of a problem actually, because if I held it on for too long, the hot fix would just melt the mesh. So that didn't really work, but I kind of managed to overcome it and it was fine. I just had to not hold it on for too long and most of the gems stuck and it was all right. So once I had done those final touches, the dress was finally finished. It was finally finished in January of 2024, so that's when I actually finished the dress and I think it turned out super cute. Of course it's not perfect, you can kind of see there are some finishing errors here and there if you look really close, but I still think for my first dress, my first time using a pattern, and I think the design, I think it's really pretty. The main issues are like the bodice, like not fitting that well, like it could fit better, and also the waistband. I'm still not really sure what to do with that. But apart from that, I think it's pretty solid work. It's so pretty, the little trim at the bottom and stuff like that. It's gorgeous. I love the colour. So for the rest of the year, I still hadn't decided where I was actually going to wear this dress to. I actually ended up graduating another time. And this time the dress was fully finished. But again, I just didn't wear it because I just didn't think it fit the vibe of the graduation, and I ended up wearing this other white dress that I had with little cutouts. It kind of reminds me of like Cher's dress from Clueless, because I wore this little mesh shirt on top of it as well, which I just thought it was a better vibe for graduation. And this dress didn't have a button, but I didn't really think it mattered because I wasn't in the robe for very long. This was like a musical theatre graduation, so it was a bit different from your typical academic graduation. You know, we only wore the robes for a photo and then we were in our own clothes when we were singing our songs and stuff like that. So even though I finished this dress technically 2 years ago, because it's 2026 now and I finished it in 2024, I didn't really have time to come round and evaluate and update and finish editing this video because I just got really busy. So firstly, I was still busy with drama school at the time that I finished it, and before actually graduating drama school I ended up filming for a bit on a TV show, and that continued on into the summer after I graduated as well. And then I did another Christmas theatre contract, which was so much fun, and that kind of took me to the end of 2024, so that year ended. And then in February of 2025 I started rehearsals for another performance contract, and all throughout this time when I was like graduating and doing these different contracts and all this stuff, I was still teaching as well. So my schedule was super busy. On all my off days I was still teaching, in the little holidays in between, and I was still teaching in the months I was teaching ballet still, and I also started teaching drama again. So yeah, it was a super chaotic time for me. I think there were weeks where I was working 7 days a week, and I remember coming home from rehearsals really late or coming back from set quite late and then having to be in a classroom, well not a classroom, like a hall, you know, teaching teaching at 9 AM the next morning. But then we get to April 2025 and I had finally stopped teaching and I'd finished rehearsals because that was when I was about to start my new performance contract. So I actually ended up moving abroad. I moved to Spain for 6 months, and that took me to the end of 2025. But before I left, I was like, I cannot forget about this dress. I need to document some kind of update. So my little sister, she very kindly volunteered for me to film me in the completed dress in my garden, twirling around a little bit. So I'll insert a clip here, and that's a little footage of me in the finished dress. Congratulations if you've made it this far. It is now February 2026. So this ended up being quite a long and chaotic video. I've moved back from Spain now. At the moment I've just been doing a lot of freelance work since I'm moving back, so I've got a lot more free time than I have had in the past 3 years, which has been really lovely, which means more videos hopefully. So much has changed since embarking on this dress journey. My older sister, her camera is now fixed and I also now have a new camera as well. I found my cutting mat, which is great news. Our sewing machine has also been serviced. My older sister so kindly, while I was away in Spain, she called this guy to come service the sewing machine, so I think that's up and running really well as well. A whole new season of Bridgerton has now come out, which was kind of partially what this dress was inspired by. And I'm actually in that season of Bridgerton. Well, like not really. I worked as an extra on it for one day before I moved to Spain, I think back in November or December of 2024. And yeah, I'm in like one tiny second of it. Yeah, so there's been lots of updates, lots of changes, lots of things I couldn't have imagined happening. But most importantly, I have this gorgeous finished dress. It's kind of just been hanging in my room as a little display piece. I still don't have anywhere in particular to wear it to, but I think maybe one day I will. And I think most importantly, it really does pay homage to that original dress that I was also inspired by, that was made by my grandmother. I think they're really similar, and I really like looking at it. I really like having it around, and I'm really proud of myself that I actually finished it and made it, even though it took me a little while, a little longer than I thought. So yes, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for sticking around and for watching, and I'll be back with another video very soon, hopefully not 3 years later. Bye.